Hearing, but I also know we've been here for 4 hours, and I wonder if a short break might not be in order.
Colonel, I believe my evaluation is all that remains, and I assure you it'll be brief. In fairness to Lieutenant Staley, who has certainly been subjected to a great deal of personal strain, I feel we should continue. Just for a few minutes.
Very well, Dr. O'Neill.
The psychological profile developed by Major Evelyn Lake unquestionably presents the lieutenant as an intelligent, reasonable officer. His record is exemplary. He's just completed one of the Air Force's most difficult courses with its known physical and mental demands. I refer to the survival course. In many ways, then, Lieutenant Staley is not the typical individual who is reported sighting UFOs, just as his encounter on the ground at close range is far from typical. In fact, it is most certainly unique in the many thousands of cases that have been investigated. Let's begin with that survival school course and his completing it on 18 May last. He had to be plagued with complete physical and mental exhaustion, as everyone who completes the course is. Nevertheless, Lieutenant Staley decided to drive straight through, almost 600 miles. Strange decision, at best, in view of his fatigued condition. Perhaps that is precisely what caused his temporary loss of memory. Example, in his interviews with Major Gatlin, Lieutenant Staley declared he'd had no drinks, no intoxicants, no alcohol. Although Major Burnham reported from the base, you'll find this on teletype of 22 May last, that everybody was having a couple of drinks. And Burnham actually gave at least one to Lieutenant Staley personally. If the lieutenant forgot one drink, perhaps he forgot two. Or even three. So, completely exhausted, Lieutenant Staley does not drive a couple of hours and sleep in a motel. No, he continues driving until he suddenly finds himself running off the highway. A confused mental state, to say the least. Then the pulling out onto the road at dawn, the complete, fantastic loss of power of his automobile. As he put it, obviously caused by some strange electromagnetic force in the vicinity. And then, there they are, the flying saucers. This officer, trained for 3 years to recognize dials, gauges, structural configurations with better than 20/20 vision. And all he can recall are a group of strange machines, 4 of them octagonal in configuration. Oh, he did recall in some detail what the top of those space machines looked like. It's his drawing number 7 in AF-112, although he admits he never saw the top. I think it interesting that his descriptions are identical to the cliché descriptions in all of the patterned flying saucer reports. Lieutenant Staley's account is clearly fraught with inconsistencies. That he bought film, but forgot it. Trained observer, he made no effort to definitely record his location. Lieutenant Staley will be eligible for discharge on 14 July this year. His academic training and education, generously supplied by the United States Air Force, complete with a degree in modern communications, were all directed towards a television career and on-camera performing. He has stated that on completion of his reserve tour in the Air Force, he will associate himself with a television station or network. And if he has kept his thumb on TV's pulse, and a clever, ambitious man certainly would, he knows the great public interest in flying saucers and UFOs. The lieutenant's library boasts in excess of a dozen books about flying saucers, almost all of them describing translucent domes, bright metal skins emitting lights, all without specifics. I submit to this hearing board that Lieutenant Paul Staley's own credibility is far less than most of these quick-buck, supercilious authors of the bilge he has cluttered his mind with. The lieutenant is a totally unreliable witness. His so-called sighting is high fiction. And why? Because of the lucrative opportunities and the sensational interest in his appearing as a TV commentator, as an eyewitness who has seen UFOs up close. He is aware that there is no better way to enter his chosen civilian profession than with a dramatic announcement that he is the only unimpeachable person, a qualified observer, an ex-Air Force pilot to have seen and actually made contact with flying saucers. There may be other motives as well for this fanciful report. I am fully aware of the obvious, crass commercial motives. I'm sure you are too.
Where you been, sir?
Made a couple of phone calls, and I made a couple more.
Didn't take them long to reach a determination.
What other conclusion could they possibly have reached? Little going away present from your father?
I'm sorry.
Are you really?
Paul, how am I supposed to take that?
How do you want to take that?
What's all this business about Daddy? He couldn't have had anything to do with the outcome.
Well, you ask him to tell you about it some rainy night. He's very good at war stories. I've had about enough of them, but you were raised on them.
Paul, I wish you'd stop talking in circles.
Well, we've been heading in this direction for quite some time, haven't we, Cynthia? Now's as good a time as any. From here on in, who's it going to be, me or your father?
This is neither the time nor the place to discuss this.
This is the precise time and the precise place to discuss it.
You're serious, aren't you? All right. If you were faced with a choice, how would you make it?
I was in that hearing room today, and I made it.
Well, I can't. And I don't see any reason why I should have to. We just have to talk about this.
It all got said in there. Goodbye, Cynthia. Be right back.
Take it to him, Major.
Doctor?
Major?
They ought to give you the Academy Award for your performance in there.
Take it easy, Major Gatlin.
Like you did with Staley? You've got about as much objectivity as a shark with an empty stomach.
Easy, Major.
I've been involved in this project for a number of years, and I've never witnessed a more thorough job of character assassination. Now, maybe you don't think it's important to people who have these sightings, but we do. Some of them tell us they've seen what they believe are unidentified flying objects. That's what put us in business, to try to identify. You know the ground rules of Blue Book as well as I do. Now, I don't know what your reasons were for that travesty in there, but I do know that you've slapped a label on one young man he's going to wear the rest of his life.
6 Air Force officers of high rank made this determination, Major, and it stands. We believe Lieutenant Staley tried to perpetuate a hoax, a pure hoax. And you're right, I know my Blue Book history. Enough to know you've dealt with a good number of these.
Only when they were thoroughly proven to be such, and this one is not. I'll tell you, O'Neill, we're going to dig into this, and we'll pull up an answer, too, as to what motivated you today. And in the meantime, the Air Force won't be needing your services anymore in this field.
You're making command decisions now, are you?
No, sir. Headquarters Air Force.
Very well, Major, but I called it as I saw it. Now, what would you have done if you were me?
Can I wait a while before I'm you?
Well, sir, how do we put it down?
What it really is. A true unknown.